Welcome, everyone. Calling the South King Fire Board of Fire Commissioners meeting to order. Today is July 25th, and I will ask Commissioner Vedino for Pledge Allegiance. Thank you. We're down to item 3, approval of minutes for regular meeting on June 25th, 2024, and special meeting on July 15th, 2024. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Vedino. Is there a second? Mr. Gates, second. Any discussion on those at all? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor for approval of the minutes for both regular meeting June 25th and July 15th, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Thank you. Fair approval. Item number 4, Commissioner comments. I will start down on Commissioner Gates' side.
No comments.
Commissioner Vedino,
Nothing for me, thank you.
Commissioner Burrs.
Really happy to see a lot of signs, mailers, that kind of stuff for upcoming election. I think that's great that we're getting the news out there.
Thank you. Senator Fuller.
The promotion process really looks good. It's been changed a lot and reinforced, and I think that will work well. The open house online, I know a lot of people probably had trouble logging in. We only had one public person log in. I know I had problems logging in because I went to the website and tried to do it that way. I like the good statistics that the fleet are keeping and preventive maintenance, but their graphs they showed just shows what they're doing, and they've got an awful lot they're doing. Special ops, that the Stuck River fire, the transport of firefighters across the river was outstanding, particularly because the VERFA chief said it was outstanding, and that's a great compliment. Question about the Phoenix. If both rigs are out of the station and the Phoenix, it needs to go. The Phoenix doesn't go because there's nobody at the station. The crews are already out somewhere.
Zenith, not Phoenix,
Phoenix,
right? Firebird.
I'm sorry.
Yes. Yes. If the engine and the aid car are out of service, then the boat would not be available. However, the crews are pretty good about paying attention and supporting each other. So if one unit can cover for 6.7s because they're out on a call and pick up and turn 6.7s loose, then they do a very good job of coordinating so the boat can go if possible.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. The zone 3 change in the swimmers, rescue swimmers, that's basically kind of the way we've been operating before, where the closest unit, the closest swimmers are called. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. There's a slight modifier in that the zone no longer has a dive team. So the rescue swimmer component has been augmented.
Okay. How do they get there? How do they get to the location? That's
In whatever apparatus they're in. So
okay.
if we had 2 rescue swimmers in engine 362, engine 362 would get dispatched and go.
Okay. Thank you. It's a good report.
Thank you. Staff appreciates that.
Thank you, Mr. Fuller. Yes, it is a good report. I just want to say also that I'm anxious to see that MIH is up now. So it'd be great to see how that's going to serve the community and how that affects the service that we provide for them. So look forward to that. So we're down to item number 7 for administrative team report. Excuse me. Yeah, I had to back up. Thank you. Public comments, please. Please state your name and address for record. Limited comments to 3 minutes or less. Do we have anyone from the public who would like to comment? Sorry. Thank you. Back up again. One more. Item number 4. Commissioners, excuse me, we had comments. We were down to 5. I was right. So public comments. Hearing and seeing none. Thank you. So now number 6 to Commissioner Committee reports. Verdino.
Okay, so policy and procedure met, and there's a proposed station visit policy in your guys' packets. I would like to make a motion to approve that policy.
There's a motion to approve for the policy on, on the station visits by Commissioner Verdino. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Fuller. So we have a motion, we have discussion on the motion on the floor.
I'd like to make a couple comments. I wasn't, this was discussed at the June board meeting, and I wasn't here. I'd like to make 2 comments. I actually like this policy to go back to the Policies and Procedures Committee and have them look at a couple things. One, I'd like them to add to the guidelines that there will be no discussion at the stations of things that the people at the station might need. In other words, we're not looking for any input that they think they need a new coffee pot or a new aid car or bathroom remodel. There's a way to handle that through the budget process. I don't want us getting involved in conversations on, hey, we need this or we need that. Secondly, the other thing I'd like to see in there is that there's going to have to be some admin work to handle this policy. And I don't want it given to Lori. I think her plate is full. She's slammed as it is with public records reports and so forth. So for the scheduling of station visits and any admin work that has to be done, I'd like those things to be done by the board chair and vice chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Gates. Do you want to comment Eddie, on that at all? Go ahead, Commissioner Verdino.
A response could be that they have to go through the chain of command for some of those requests and some of those questions.
Commissioner Verdino?
Yes, there is some language in there that emphasizes that we're not there for that type of comment. We're there to learn about the district.
Okay.
After that,
Burris,
we
go ahead.
addressed, however, how will this be scheduled? Got 3 very separate entities that all have to be coordinated. All of them have tight schedules. What I'd like to see a little bit more direction on exactly how this will be scheduled. And I agree. Just last month, we decided not to do the commissioner calendar because it was going to be some additional work for Lori. I would argue that this will be way more additional work for her than just entering in a calendar. to get all three entities all together, all at the same time. It's a big workload, and I'd just like to see it defined who is going to be responsible for that. What is the policy going to be? Does the firefighter or the commissioner just call up and say, hey, I would like to visit Station 63 C shift next Tuesday? And now it's up to the administration to find somebody to accompany it? Or, I mean, who makes those decisions? It's not really spelled out in policy. So I,
I'm- that's one way it's going.
and that will allow us to pick the correct time for the crew. But does the commissioner then also try and look at the chief's schedule and try and match up? I'm not sure if I have full access to his schedule.
Commissioner Fuller,
It's not just-
excuse me, Commissioner Fuller, could you turn your mic on? Can you turn your mic on, please? Thank
It's
you.
not just the chief that's going to be going, so it's
It might be.
officers, so one of his other folks can do that, but it's really up to the commissioner to figure out where do they fit in the daily operation of the department. But if I make not mistaken, we've got some of the people out here that are, you know, captains and such that could, I haven't got it. Okay, captains and such, that, I mean, assistant chiefs, that can be the leader on that.
I believe that would be different from this current policy, though. The policy talks about a member of the executive leadership team, fire chief, executive director, or deputy chief. I think captains would apply. I don't think battalion
No,
chiefs would
not
apply.
captains. I misstated there, but within that list, there should be one that can fit in, and Lori can handle that, but we really have enough advance time. You really almost have to schedule a couple of weeks ahead.
I would go along with Commissioner Gates and say, can we take this back to committee and just give us a real clear, how are these visits scheduled? What's the right way to do it? What's the wrong way to do it?
We can do that.
Because I made a motion, we have to vote.
There's a motion on the table right now.
Did you withdraw your motion?
Do you either withdraw your motion?
Can I withdraw?
Yes, you can.
Okay, I withdraw my motion.
The motion for station visits to approve the policy and station visits has been withdrawn. So go back to the policy committee.
Yeah, so we had one other policy, and that's the
Yes.
commissioner uniform policy, which is like the jackets and the shirts. And it's just updating it. So I would like to move to approve that policy.
There's a motion for the uniform policy. Are the commissioners, Commissioner Medina, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Commissioner Burrs. Any other discussion on that motion?
On the things that, I don't remember it exactly, on the things that we're allowed to have, were there any name tags? Did we have name tags?
Yes.
It does include your name on the jacket.
I
No
think
name
that's,
tag.
yeah. That's what I was thinking. Wasn't it embroidered? Right. Commissioner Gates, were you
I
looking
don't
for
really
more?
know. I just keep wearing my Seahawks hat, is that?
The shirts don't have any. Impact. Okay, so most of us use those name tags as an identification on our shirts because that's what we normally wear. And if we're out in the public and they want to see who it is, and they just look at that. Those engraved magnet kind of badges, if you want to call it, were aimed to handle that.
So the policy I'm reading right now doesn't talk about name tag.
Okay.
You're looking to have it. I believe Commissioner Gates was asking to have something like that added into the policy.
I mean, we've got them now.
Okay.
I mean, if you feel we shouldn't have them, that's fine with me.
So are you looking to maybe just formalize that in language, or do you just want to?
Yeah, send it back to committee also.
Okay. All right. Yes, Chief.
I'll bring mine to the next meeting.
Just to offer a possible solution. Plastic name tag is a small item that we could provide that wouldn't necessarily have to be in the policy and procedure guidelines. Send it back. We do already provide automatic.
Okay. That suffice, Commissioner Gates?
Do we have to turn them in when we leave, along
You're
with the laptop?
You're the one and only.
Or Fuller?
Oh, I turned it off. They're particularly useful at the Chamber of Commerce meeting.
Okay. Is there any other comments on the motion for uniforms? I think that was the only thing that we were going to come back with. So, all right. So all those in favor of the motion for the policy committee to move forward with the motion on uniforms, I'd signify by saying aye. Aye. All those in favor, opposed, nay. All right. So unanimous. Thank you. Thank you for the work. Do you have anything else? Thank you. Item number 7, administrative team report.
So the board's been provided with the administrative report for the month. If there's any additional questions, we'll answer them at this time.
Any other questions?
Has there been pushback, any pushback from how long it takes to write those reports? Or I know monthly report at where I worked were sometimes looked at.
Honestly, not, I mean, other than, oh, shoot, they're due. I don't know that there's a ton of pushback. And if you could go back into September and October when I first started, we've really worked hard to refine and put some parameters around a page to a page and a half, highlights, bullet points, easily digestible data, not so many acronyms. We're trying to refine those messages a little bit and refining how they were formatted. If you think back, they were 7 or 8 pages long, and now we're down to right about probably 4 or 5. And everybody is sending their report to their direct supervisor. So fleet and facilities, as an example, they're reporting to Mitch Lee. Mitch Lee is consolidating a little bit and making sure there's no redundancy, making sure we're not contradicting ourselves, making sure we're a little more accurate, and then that gets submitted. So I would say no, there's not. I mean, yes, it's a little bit of work, but it's good for us to pay attention to what we're doing and how we're doing it. But it's also an opportunity for us to pass along a few accolades for our staff to the commissioners and let the commissioners know what great work the firefighters and all of our divisions are doing. So
If you have coached them, and the statistics that they're showing really reflect what's really going on in their analysis of those. And the troubles with maintenance and just how much it takes and what's coming up. I think they're doing very well.
Thank you.
I like to say, Chief, that I enjoy reading those, you know, and you're right. They're concise, to the point, short, but they have a lot of information, which I like about them. So I agree, Commissioner Fuller. There's a lot in there to digest for commissioners to see what's going on, and we won't get to that point where we can, know all that information unless that's out there. So I do appreciate those reports. Thank you. Any other questions for the administrative team? Thank you. We're going to move on to item number 8, which are DEI presentation.
So HR staff is here at the request of last meeting to share some of what we've done with DEI and what we've done with some of our initiatives. We've asked them to stay at about the 15-minute mark. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mary, Sharice, and Nikki.
Good evening, everyone. And for those of you tuning in who don't know me, I'm Mary Stevens, HR Director for the district. And our HR team appreciates this opportunity to present an update on our equity and workforce development program. And in the interest of time, an outline history of events that has transpired over several years up to now was provided in your commissioner packets, and that will enable us to focus today's presentation on where we stand today and what direction and steps may lie ahead for the program. Sharice Gamble, our Program Manager of Equity and Workforce Development, is going to start us off. And following her presentation, I will provide additional pieces that touch on the grant deliverables and highlights before closing out the presentation. If you have questions during the presentation, please write them down. And there will be a Q&A session with opportunity to have your questions answered at the end of the presentation. So with that, Sharice, we'll take it from here.
Thank you, Mary. Hello, team. It's a strong mic holder there. All right, well, let's get started. We're going to jump into our ambassadors group. This is a group composed of members from the district of all divisions. It gives us an opportunity to collaborate on what we'd like to see for the future of the department in terms of our equity and workforce development. We work on a lot of things. Off to the side here, you see one of our agendas. So we meet once a month for 2 hours, and we really focus on what's going on, what's our updates for our action steps, what's planning for what we have upcoming, which you can see in the bullet points there. We also focus some of our time on a learning objective each month. The way we selected these was as a team, we thought about where our skill gaps are and what we need more information on. And then we built out a plan to build up our knowledge as a team on those key components. The reason for that is that when we are, with other members or in the community, we're all speaking the same language and we're all coming kind of from the same place in terms of what we're doing equity-wise. So it develops that shared language and allows us to inform other members of the department in a collective way. Right here, you can see our mission for ambassadors, which really includes equity strategies, culturally responsive actions, opportunities for education and leadership, and then your personal ownership over your equity journey, which is a big part of the work. The ambassadors team has a strategic plan. There are 4 main components of that strategic plan. You can see them outlined here. So the DEI task force, which is our ambassadors, community outreach, which happens in a lot of ways. We'll talk through some of those here shortly. Hiring and recruitment, retention, and then training and development. As far as community engagement, our efforts this year have really placed a strong emphasis on the youth in our community and connecting them to the fire service. We have been to a lot of events this year. So you see them outlined here in the 4 circles. And really our goal is to not only educate them about the critical role of the fire department, but also try and instill that sense of pride, purpose, and civic responsibility into our youth. And specifically, we want to be working with youth that we know is historically missed, right, or historically marginalized. So some of the events that we've done this year, so again, that's the ambassadors volunteering their time, helping to plan these events, staffing them, all of those pieces. One of them is Project Invent, and this is an engineering contest. Our team was 8th grade students from Sahali Middle School here in Federal Way. And what they do is invent practical technology solutions for real world problems that we're facing in King County. So our firefighters presented lots of different things that they're coming across on calls and in serving our community, and the kids made inventions that helped solve those problems. So it's a really cool project to be a part of. Lots of skill based. I mean, they built prototypes, there was experimenting, and it was pretty awesome. Another one is WABS, which is Washington Alliance for Better Schools. And they have a mission of leading partnerships with local agencies to ensure that students that are the furthest away from opportunity can pursue a future that embraces their strengths, passions, and dreams. So we had them come to South King Fire and do station tours, Jeopardy with the fire chiefs. We did rig tours. We had lunch together. And we also talked about what it takes to have a career in the fire service. Part of this mission is not only expanding their knowledge on the fire and operations side of things, but also support staff, commissioners, other opportunities for our community to get engaged and involved in the fire service that maybe isn't always known about. We also visited Kilo Middle School for their career exploration day, which is just an opportunity for students to learn how the things that they're learning in school will contribute to their success as adults and help them kind of navigate some of the career options that are available to them. We also are working on a number of different initiatives right now with Federal Way Public Schools. One of those includes an internship program, again, across divisions, not just fire and operations, but IT department, finance department, and we're working collectively to make that happen, hopefully starting next year. So that is our community engagement update. Another thing that we're really focused on here at South King is taking a regional approach. So how can we pool our resources, share best practices, and develop partnerships with our surrounding agencies to really develop some comprehensive solutions to address our community needs? So on a regional level, we're involved with the Washington State Fire Chiefs, and I am on their DEI committee. Currently, what we're working on is an equity framework that would be utilized by all of the departments in our region that really provides a framework for beginning this work, assessing your policies, and really building equity into all of the practices that we practice regionally. Another way that we're involved from a regional standpoint is with the King County Fire Chiefs Association. So we have done so far 4 diversity and recruitment workshops. Those look like opportunities for the public to come in, learn everything you need to know about starting and being successful with a career in the fire service, from pre-hiring to hiring and training. And this event is welcoming of those communities that have typically been underserved in our industry. So as a region, again, we're trying to create access, promote opportunity, and remove the barrier to having the information that you need to be successful in any of our departments. Another way that we're focusing on a regional approach is the Federal Way Equity Learning Network, which is a pop-on, pop-off meeting once a month where there's agencies from our area that all work on the same thing: community outreach, community engagement, providing resources and support to the community. So this gives us an opportunity to really learn about different resources that exist within our community, learn what's working for other organizations, and really build a collective approach to implementing equitable practices and developing culturally responsive programs within the fire service. And last but not least, we are working on a joint promotional testing committee. I heard the promotion mentioned earlier, and this is also exciting because it gives us that opportunity to make sure everything is fair and transparent. We're using best practices. We are using a challenging and engaging approach. And then we're up with the other departments in our region. So that's also a way that we are engaging at a regional level. Another piece of the work that I wanted to highlight that I think sometimes gets missed is the behind the scenes equity work. So what this really looks like is across all facets of our operations, how are we weaving equity into those practices? So it's regularly reviewing and updating our key policies to ensure that there's fair and inclusive language in them, and that they're aligned with our department's commitment to community and our workforce. The hiring process in particular has had a complete overhaul. We now use an internal process for firefighters. And even on the civilian side, we have switched up our interview policies and practices, as well as how we train our panelists to make sure that they're coming into interviews with an open mindset and ready to select someone that will best serve our needs. Also highlighting that the equity work doesn't just happen in, the HR office or in the chief's office, but it actually happens across the board within our department. For example, right now we're working on the FBC as a department, and we're talking about what that community messaging looks like, right? What was the barriers to accessing that information? That's a piece of the equity work, as well as supporting operations with the promotional process. HR is there to ensure fair treatment, transparent processes. And another good example of that is this year when we implemented the performance reviews across the department, right? So upskilling, workforce development, that's all related to that cross-divisional support. So what's next? Well, we definitely want to continue to engage our ambassadors, the department, and our community as we continue to weave equity into our policies and practices and support that regional approach, as well as participate in innovative recruitment programs. We have some goals coming up, some that I have mentioned. So piloting that student internship experience, increasing our South King specific offerings of training and development, specifically related to community engagement and equity, employee engagement survey, and a plan to use that information and data after completing it. And then a South King specific community resource fair. We'd like to put that on as the group of ambassadors. What that means is we would invite all of our partnering agencies to come, be in one place, and have an opportunity for families to gather and learn about the resources that they need that are right here in our community. All right. That was quick. So that leaves a lot of time for Q&A. As Mary said, we'll have a quick Q&A about the things that I've talked about so far, and then she has a few pieces to share as well. Joining me on the Q&A will be Nikki and Mary. The equity work is really a collaborative HR process, so we're all best equipped to answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner? Depends.
How are you going to measure success and change that the programs achieve? Short term might be something quarterly, kind of in range, and longer term, I'm thinking yearly. But how are you going to measure that?
Currently, we're measuring our progress through our strategic plan. So the initiatives that I briefly mentioned in the beginning and those strategic strategies that follow those. So currently, that's how we're measuring. Are we meeting the action steps that are outlined in our strategic plan? I think in terms of like a yearly comparison of data and stuff, that's where we're talking about some of those engagement surveys and some of those information pieces that we'll need to track over time.
The programs that schools, it's going to be a little hard to measure what changes might might be made by kids out there. But
Yeah.
you might work with individual schools that you've been in because they have most of them, the principals, and have a pretty good um, feel for that and could make an assessment for you whether what kids think maybe toward a month or so after you've done something, have them just ask the question.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. I thought you meant more like tracking over time, but at the end of each event, the school district actually does like a little survey for kids and educators to see how it went. So we've received really positive feedback from those.
I know there's more on your list there, Commissioner Fuller. There's more on your list, isn't there? Oh. Okay. Oh. Okay. So that was going to be my question too. So current metrics and things like that. So on the events that you go to for community events, so when you put the initiatives up there, are there like maybe some type of the uses for metrics like a post or a pre or a post type of survey done to see what they learned afterwards, maybe? Or is that or you doing it in conjunction with who you're networking? You understand?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. So as I just said, the school districts that we're partnering with, they do a post survey that asks kids about their experience. Is there anything they would change? How enjoyable it was? They use a rating scale, so we get specific rating numbers from those.
Okay. And I know that you have in there that, it's mainly some of the initiatives. A lot of them are, when you talk about community, whether a lot of it's geared toward our children, I understand too. But is there a plan to start going to our seniors, elderlies, and our disabled in the community?
I don't think there's currently a plan other than, the community engagement, that work that's already being done by the CAO office. There's some overlap there.
Okay.
Were you going to say something?
Not regarding the seniors or disabled members, but yes, the focus this year is on youth, but the diversity workshops that we attend are all adults and like application ready age. So it's definitely not solely the youth that we're connecting with. We are connecting with adults within the region to also gain more visibility, access, and just kind of, let folks know how we differ and the work that we've done to make sure that a career in the fire service is attainable for them. So the focus this year is youth, but we are definitely still engaging adults. And then we are always open to future plans and how that can be adjusted for the needs of our community.
Okay, thank you.
Our area and our city have very wide diversity. And there are some organizations that work together. El Centro de la Raza is an example. And are there any efforts to work with the organizations? There's I believe, a Korean and a Japanese group that meet, have activities. Are we reaching out to them and their members and their youth to present what the possibilities are in the fire service?
Yes, we are. We have a whole list of community partners that we reach out to often. They also invite us to their events, like their Juneteenth events and different community engagement things that they have going on. We also, when we began the internship experience, we had a community listening session where those community partners were invited to basically, remove the barriers to access on a proactive level. So we listen to what they would like to see in a program like this for their youth. What are the barriers, for example, transportation or food, time of day, parent involvement, right? Things like that. And we use that to build the program to hopefully make it accessible to the youth that are in our community. So yes, we have lots of strong community partnerships, and we're really utilizing those, strategically wherever they fit to meet the need of the community best.
Thank you.
Commissioner Gates?
Are we getting more applicants because of the work you're doing?
I think more might be a relative term. Prior to us enlisting our new internal testing process, right, we were combining our efforts with other departments. So we're looking at lists for people who are applying to multiple departments at one time, and we're looking at those numbers. Whereas now, the numbers we're receiving are people applying solely and specifically to South King Fire. So on average, we've seen about 300 applications each time we've run a process. So that's a pretty big number for somebody solely picking us versus the roughly anywhere between 600 and 1,000 that we've seen come through on a joint process, where South King might be number 5 on their list. It might be number 3 on their list. So, it's a little bit of a relative response.
Thank you.
So I'm thinking that then for the training consortium, right, you're part of that does the recruitment. No, I just want to understand that. Okay,
We run an
but you're part of
internal
the,
process.
go ahead, I'm sorry.
We run an internal process
Right.
for entry-level firefighter recruitment.
Okay. I think Chief, you wanted to say something.
So there's a couple of initiatives that we are heavily involved in, and one of them is the King County Fire Chiefs recruiting events. And so we do get data from that event, and it's demographics, it's feedback on the sessions, all those types of things. We are starting to see candidates from those events. They mentioned that they saw South King people at the event, or they went through those events that allow them to prepare for the hiring process. And then the other thing I would say about those events is we've had, some of our strong representation, Captain Anthony John, Captain Shannon Altman, there at those events presenting on how to prepare for an oral board or how to do something. And so there's a fair amount of representation, and we are starting to see candidates from that specifically applying to South King and being in our interview process, and hopefully putting into practice what we taught them. So that part of it is where the recruitment lies. We haven't done our own recruitment event yet. It's something we've talked about, but the King County Fire Chiefs has such a wide message in their program that it's very effective and efficient for us to participate. And being completely honest, anybody that didn't see a path to being a firefighter before but finds that path and is successful is a win. Whether they take a job with us or they take a job with Puget Sound or they take a job with Seattle, getting anybody into the fire service that's underrepresented is a win.
Thank you. So let me understand the internships then. So the internship program that you are talking about, can you
You just
kind
you
of,
just gave us an evaluation that, it's qualitative, but it is quantitative, that you're seeing changes, and
Right.
that's what you want to see.
so back on the internship program itself, you kind of just lay out real quick a synopsis, or this Reader's Digest version, I always call it, of how the internships, how that process works for the program at all?
Yeah, you're talking about the internship process that we're developing.
Yes.
Yes, so the ambassadors are developing it. Again, that is a cross-divisional group. So we have IT, we have finance, we have fire chiefs, we have HR, right? So the way the program is running so far is we all developed basically a marketing presentation to give to students. So then they would select which area they're interested in. Is it IT? Is it operations? And the first thing we're going to do is pilot it. So we're going to run like a short 2-day. They'll spend 8 hours each day with their respective department or division, excuse me. And just make sure we work out any of the kinks. The way we'll connect with students is through their school counselors. So we're working directly with the CTE office, the Career Technical Education Office, and they're going to connect us with school counselors of, students that are interested in the fire service, and then students will select which division they'd like to shadow, if you will, for the pilot experience. And those divisions developed kind of what they would show students, what students would learn, what their little orientation process would be. And part of that is teaching them the requirements to do that job. Is it a certification? Is it college? Is it workforce experience? So that's the synopsis. Any other questions about it?
No, so it's still being developed. I'm sorry, Sheree. Okay.
Yes, it's being developed. All of the content and everything is developed. We're just waiting for the school year to begin again, so we
Right.
can pilot it.
Okay.
The issue of equity has been around in industry for probably 40 years at least, efforts in it. Have you looked at other kinds of companies and what kind of programs they have and what might be applicable? There must be other, well, I know there are other programs that are attempting to do the same thing and with various kinds of success. So,
Yeah, definitely. So I think that one of the ways is that the regional approach, right? Another way is that equity learning network. That's not just fire department, that's agencies from federal way, period. So that lets us know what's working for them. We also attend conferences regularly, so NERMA and SHRM, just to stay up to date with what's currently going on in the equity world. There's always a lot of changes, so it's really important that we just keep up with best practices.
have you contacted the Chamber of Commerce and about working with them? They're becoming more and more influential in the community.
Yeah, we actually have worked with them, and Mary is going to go over that with you all next.
So I know in the report, there is a statement in there about district leadership having to do a formal review of the grant material. Do you know when that's going to happen?
Hi, this is Mary. So there's no scheduled yet formal review yet. I think we've been just getting through a lot of other priorities and such. So it hasn't had a chance to be taken on as of yet.
Okay. So I guess my next question is going to be where it comes back to what I want to form, but how can this board help folks, if all, if any?
I think now is a chance to just give you an update on where we've been, where we are now. And we welcome your input and attending the meetings. And I know that you had mentioned about in past meetings about this becoming a commissioner committee. And so we're here to give you information and for you to decide what type of involvement you would like to have. We would welcome that. And so we're just giving you sort of the full, the broad scope of what it could be, but there are still a lot of pieces that are in development, sort of in different stages, that it would be nice to have some oversight and support, because the chiefs and the admin group are, very tied up with other matters. And I mean, it's up to you though. I'm not here to pitch it, but just to let you know what it is and what involvement you would like to have with it.
And I think that's going back to committees again.
Mhm.
Sorry, but I think that was the form that it was in my mind to formulate to how to help you,
Mhm.
and that was a more formal way of doing that. And so, if anyone from the committee wants this policy committee wants to speak, if that's what the idea or what you're because you spoke, the report was about redundancy. So my thing is, where's the redundancy in a commission board that's helping out that and the initiatives that's happening? That's what I'm trying to get at.
After this presentation, we will talk about it at our next.
Would it make sense to have a commissioner committee?
Well, I think if I remember right, so it was one of the committees that was offered for the first of the year, and that's why it was brought. And so the question was again that when the committee met, it was stated that a lot of it had to be redundancy. We didn't need the committee. And so the reason for this presentation is also I wanted to see how this board can help if we have to form that. And like Commissioner Vadillo says, if you want to come back, I'd really appreciate it if we went back and talked.
Okay, I wasn't here at the first of the year. I don't have that background.
Commissioner
No,
Vadillo,
that is the proposal, so we will add that to our agenda.
thank you.
Well,
Oh, go ahead.
this slide going forward is just a snapshot. We're not going to go over these in detail today, but this is just a snapshot of all the deliverables that were part of the grant and the funding that was afforded and awarded to South King Fire. So again, we won't go into them, but they are all the information on each of these deliverables, which each has layers and layers and layers of information available. We have, and so we can provide those to you if you'd like. I will touch on a few of the deliverables, and okay, thank you, Sharice. One of the deliverables outlines a program for employee engagement with an objective of building a culture of trust, inclusiveness, positivity, and teamship across all divisions, where our workforce is recognized as the human capital of the organization and its most valuable asset. We have lots of assets. We have buildings, we have rigs, we have multi-million dollar equipment and uniform, everything else. But really, it's our employees that make our department and should be considered the most valuable asset that we have. And we want to brand the department as the employer of choice for up and coming candidates, seeking a career in the fire service. And a healthy employee engagement program translates to providing excellent service to our community and business partners. The first step of that would be to, as referenced in an earlier slide, the first step would be conducting an employee engagement survey of our workforce, followed with tailoring an employee engagement strategy that would include mentorship for newer members and career development paths ongoing to better equip our employees with skills to advance in their careers. And this is outside of formal required training for each and everybody's position. This is, examples, your basic, your Office 365 tools. Everybody has a computer and there's tutorials and there's, things that you can put on the plate for learning, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, all of these things that as you grow in leadership are important skills to have. There's writing skill classes that could be offered and other topics to help employees better themselves in preparation of career advancement opportunities when they come along for company officer and other leadership roles within the civilian world. And some of the deliverables have been achieved already through the district's strategic bridge plan. Some of those elements that we've already done are actually in the grant. And so that it would be our the newly launched Employee Resource Center, which is a valuable tool for learning and communicating needs amongst all divisions and learning about the other divisions and how they operate. And self-help service through it's a UKG program where it's for employees to be able to just have access to all of their information for payroll, for benefits. When they have a question, they can just go to it 24/7 and not have to wait until we're in the office from 8 to 5.
that, that's a, most people, when they talk about equity, they think about ethnic
Mhm.
equity, but you're giving us a different look at the employees themselves and how they could be developing or uh, becoming more engaged.
Yes,
And that's, I think, a very important step.
right. And the hiring process, of course, is where it all starts in building that equity and building, the diverse workforce that you're looking for that mirrors and reflects your community that you serve. So it all kind of like starts and flows through, and then
You
you
might-
build them up
yeah.
while they're here, and putting focus plans together. So that would be one of the that's just one deliverable that we're talking about, and amongst all of that list.
In that engagement, you just might find somebody with skills and abilities and aptitudes that could contribute much more than that we appreciate and can get from them.
Yeah, and I don't know that some employees may not know or realize what tools are already there at their disposal at every station. And so just highlighting and focusing on what we have and just making it known and helping them schedule or put together programs. We did one recently. We arranged for an employee who was had some ergonomic issues at their station. We had our third-party administrator from Sedgwick come in, and they have a whole safety and health division of our agreement and our program with them. And so they were able to just go to that person's desk, look at it up and down. I mean, really, really do an in-depth study of this person and their work style and how they work, and just make simple adjustments. So these are things that, I mean, we're just building on, and we're sort of just kind of capturing as we go along. And so just an example of things that we want to help our employees with. And if they have a need, let us know, and we'll do everything that we can to provide the solution. Another piece of the grant work is it provides a fully developed SharePoint Equity Learning Center, and these are just snapshots of some of the screens of the where like your face screen, and then you click and click and click and go into layers and layers of great information. There's complete with training materials, links to a plethora of written training materials, books, audio podcasts, and video recorded programs that employees can access. We have not launched this, but it's something that I think deserves, as part of the grant deliverables, an oversight and review, because maybe, some of it might not, it just needs to be vetted, I think, through a formal process. So you'll see one of the items noted is just the equity and inclusion piece. And there's leadership training. You'll see a lot of links to different, again, all of these have materials, books, podcasts, video trainings. So all of these points, and a lot of mental health resources. So we really focused on getting a lot of help, because that's a really big topic right now in the fire services is mental health services. So these are online accessible programs that people can go to, and along with books and anything that they'd like, and or if they don't want it, they don't have to have it. So, and other ideas for this would be for the Equity Learning Center would be, I'd like to see would just be like an employee spotlight center, where you have an employee that would voluntarily tell their own story and background of their experience and what led them to a career in the fire service. Interest groups. It would be a section for employees to share common interests and share that interest with everyone. And just a good example I saw, even just from an employee who developed a club and has been sending out messages and about their club. They have an interest. It's a grappling club. And that was something that the employee just did on their own. And now that employee has drawn interest from a lot of other people. They have events and functions and people are invited to it. So it just gives a chance for people with different interests to just share that interest with other employees. So that's just sort of something that I was thinking would be a fun thing to have on there as well. So I want to close by saying thank you so much. And this is actually the face of a thank you card that we received in the mail today from a student at Hilo Middle School, where Charisse and a group had gone to give a program on the fire service. And I'll just read it to you really quick. Dear Charisse Gamble and South King Fire, thank you so much for coming to speak at our career day this year. One thing Kilo students shared that they learned from you is how not everyone working in the fire department fights fires. This was surprising. Thanks again for taking time out of your schedule to come talk to us. It was great having you, and signed with his name.
That's just the reaction you want to see more and more of.
Yes, we'd like to sustain and continue what we're doing and enhance it. It does take time and support. So,
Having worked at a grade school for a couple of
mhm.
years, I understand that because kids will hand you a little card, or you'll find it in your somewhere that they've given it to a teacher and they're afraid to mention who they are, but they will respond.
Thought that was a very positive response and reflection of, where the program is, and where it could go. Right now, we're community and employee, and Charisse is working really hard with the. She's got a lot of attention from the state and the county chiefs, and she's a great asset for them. They've recognized that, and they're pulling from her as well. So this could be a chance for South King Fire to, become something special that other fire departments maybe talk about but aren't really doing.
There's at the school I was at, I worked, but never successful in getting an engine or a ladder truck at each fire drill.
Mm-hmm.
And have that kind of visibility. They do it quickly, but still you can have that exposure with the kids. Yeah. I wasn't ever successful. He always put it at the end of the day when there just wasn't enough time. But working with the principals, I think you could probably work it in with them.
Sorry about that.
There was a lot there, and so I might have missed it. It seems like we've got a lot of good programs going with younger people, the schools. And that's when you got to start to be really successful, but there's kind of a long-term payoff for that. It's going to be 10 years before they're actually filling out an application. And then we've got programs for people that we've already hired. If I'm being impatient and I want a little bit better diversity of applicants right now, how do we do that?
Well, I think it's our testing process. We do with the outreach that we do to the communities. We're also have our own testing processes we've been talking about, and it's designed that way where we can draw in other diverse members and marginalized communities, because we offer a test that's lower in cost and allows them to test in their own home. It's very convenient. And we have just our practices for bringing our panel who interview. We take them through anti-bias training before they sit on a panel so that they can, you know, sort of have, like Cherise said, come in with an open mind. And so that's just one of the ways that we're doing it. I mean, we don't have any problem drawing in candidates, but I think the fact that our test costs less is a big draw. And they can test in their own home. They don't have to drive clear up to north to public safety. You know, those entities that offer testing in areas, they can just test in their own home. One barrier that's still out there is the CPAT test. The CPAT is an expensive test for some people. And so that's something I'd like to look at, how we could, you know, maybe make that more affordable for people.
Questions?
It's probably $100 or so, at least $100.
The CPAT's 135 to 175, depending upon where you take it.
Yeah, and our testing center, Fire Police Selection Incorporated in California, they have a whole division where they consult with fire agencies, and they have a model CPAT program that's similar to the IAFF approved one. That it really that's like that program, but you would just bring that up, have that program yourself. Just it takes props, it takes a treadmill. I mean, very few props, but I was told that the props and the materials, equipment to run a CPAT test could fit in the back of a pickup truck. And so that's something, I mean, down the road would be great to explore, because then you could just make the CPAT part of the interview and hiring process, instead of them having to go out and bring you this piece of paper that says I passed it. It's just, we put it on ourselves, and then that's just, and they don't pay for it. It's just part of our testing process, but that's something that would need to be reviewed.
Be a scholarship.
Yeah, I think there's quite a few different options. You know, I think we just have to we do our due diligence, do our research, make sure we do it right, because we don't want to create a situation where we inadvertently create some sort of inequity that we didn't think about, or some unintended consequence. The change we made in taking any CPAT as opposed to a certain CPAT helps quite a bit. And that's been pretty much a region wide, because it used to be if I took the CPAT from public safety, it only counted for public safety tests. Well, that's $135. And then I want to take a national test, or I want to take South Kings test or Zone 3's test, and I have to take another CPAT and another CPAT. So, you know, we've done some incremental things to make it a little bit easier to take away those roadblocks. And that goes part to your comment, Commissioner Burris, about how do we get more applicants. It's about showing the path and taking away some of the mysteries for those young adults, that it's not as daunting as they might think. Yes, it's challenging. Yes, there's some work you have to put into it, but it's not insurmountable. And there's Cherise and Nikki could probably talk for hours about the roadblocks that we face with some of the cultural stigmas of being a firefighter. Not every culture really wants their son or daughter to be a firefighter, that it's not really considered to be a respected position in their communities. It's some of the inequities in the school system, and that some people are just not as prepared for certain styles of written tests than others. So there's a lot we can do, and they're doing an amazing job of chipping away at those things. The ambassador group has done a great job of thinking outside of the box and finding different ways to connect with the community. The event they hosted showing that you don't have to just be a firefighter to serve the community. You could work in finance, you could work in the shop, you could work in logistics, was an amazing success. And that was because of the creativity of that group and showing people there's a path to community service other than just wearing a uniform and riding on a fire truck. So I share your frustration sometimes that we don't feel like we're making enough progress, but we are consistently making positive steps.
I recall when Reese came and made her first presentation to us, and the amount of growth of the program since then has been tremendous. Having seen that development over time.
Yes. Well, and being able to watch Sharice with the state fire chief, someone on that same committee, and being able to watch her influence and her ability to educate a group of fire chiefs has been rewarding because she's invested in not only getting things in place and building programs, but she's also been able to educate other fire chiefs from across the state on the importance of diversity. And so, you know, we are making a difference locally, but we're also making a difference across the state.
Commissioner Gates, you had your mic on. Okay, I just want to make sure. So I just want to circle back and real quick back to the school district. So do you know, or even if they track it, because you know there's a large number of unhoused children that come to schools. Is there a way that they track it so you folks know when you're done with the initiative and programs that you come through at all?
Can you repeat the end of your question? Is there a way we track what?
Is there a way that I'm trying to figure out if the school district has a way when anyone you partner with, especially with them, because a large number of our children in the school district are unhoused. How do you know, or how can they get that to you to say that that person that participating in the program, do they even try to point that out at all? You know?
Of course, in Washington State, we have McKinney-Vento, which covers families that are experiencing homelessness, but there's a lot of protective measures for student information, so it's on a need-to-know basis.
Right.
I think our job is to provide information and opportunities and event in a way that removes that barrier, right, ahead of time and proactively. So we do the best we can there.
Yeah. Because I think
the
this,
age group that you have the greatest impact on, I would think, would be high school, where they're trying to make this final decision. What am I going to do? Yeah. And as trade is more emphasized rather than going to college, it's a real opportunity to open up that option.
Yeah, absolutely. I think from the career development standpoint, I think the other piece of this engagement work is, you know, families and parents love to hear about and brag about what their kids are doing. So if a firefighter came to school and read a book, or you were a part of Jeopardy with the fire chief and your team won, that's exciting things for kids to go home and share with their families and their families to share with the rest of their community. So there's a lot of ways to have those touch points and those points of impact. And I think they're all really relevant to the work that we do. Even as Chief said, you know, developing those relationships between agencies and the service and those communities that have historically felt underserved, right? And there's sometimes a gap in the relationship there. So these positive touches and interactions are really helpful to building those relationships and changing that narrative.
And oftentimes those, what Sharice was saying about the kids coming home and talking to their parents about what the firefighter did at school today, that can open up the mindset of that parent too. So it's not just necessarily, you know, the youth member that we're saying apply to the fire service in 10 years when you're old enough. It's definitely, you know, those parents who might be looking for a life change, and provides them kind of an opportunity to light that fire and say it's time to check out something new. So we've seen that happen.
No pun, no
pun
fires.
intended.
well, I thank you for coming and make the presentation to us. It's I know it was a lot of work, and I know you've done a lot of work. And so that's why I wanted to kind of get the gist of see what had been done, because I knew the grant was there, and I know that, you know, I look at the opportunities on the other side, and I think talking to G. Nichols and G. Crossan and Chief Mecklenburg about this, you know, my biggest thing sometimes is networking that into a community risk reduction type of program, right? How do you fit that in there? And that's a perfect fit for that type of thing, where you want to go. And it just to me, it's just seamless. It just goes right in each other, and you guys can help each other out. Once that comes, because I know that Chief's the bandwidth has to be there for you to do that, and I understand that. So this is another step to probably help that out and get to that point. So thank you. Thank you very much. Any other comments from commissioners at all? Okay, thank you. We're going to move forward to item 9, to July budget.
Okay, Summer is here this evening to present the vouchers for approval.
Okay, mid-month utilities total $65,826.01. Accounts payable warrants $1,912,048.45. Payroll direct deposit for 214 individuals was $2,500,032.65. EFTPS payroll taxes are $678,228.83. Medical claims processed as of July 23rd, 2024, totaling $330,457.59, bringing our grand total to $5,486,593.53.
Any questions? Okay. None? Thank you. Want to go now? You always do them. Go
Could
ahead.
make the note that it's 0.5%.
We'll get to that next, Commissioner Fuller.
Oh, okay.
So the financial, we'll just jump right in. So the financial report, year-to-date expenses, $27,883,027.77. So we are at 58.21% expended, which puts us, 58.33% expended, which puts us 0.57% over budget for the year. And the primary contributor to that is we have processed retro pay based on settling of the firefighters' contract. So the firefighters have all got their retro pay for the amount of time. For 24, they got their retro pay. Sorry, there was some overlap there. And a little bit of 23, and the 23 comes out of this year's budget. So that's why we're over. But we knew that that was going to happen, and we had budgeted for some of those increases.
Any other questions? Okay. We go down to item 10 for approval of vouchers. Anyone take a look at it? Who wants to do it?
I'll move approval of the vouchers.
Thank you.
I'll
Commissioner
second.
Gates. Commissioner Gates, motion, second by Commissioner Medino. Any discussions on the vouchers and the motion? Hearing seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Unanimous. Thank you. We have approval. Hearing seeing none of the business, we are adjourned.